Happy to have you along. We are joined as always by Greg Engert, beer director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, a food and wine sommelier of the year. The group includes Where We Are, Blue Jacket, Arsenal, the restaurant downstairs, also Rustico in Alexandria and Ballston. Greg, it is always good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What is on tap this week?
This week we're going big right off the rip. We have an amazing beer from Avery Brewing Company out in Boulder, Colorado. They've been brewing crazy beer since 1993. Adam Avery is a good friend of ours here, and we love the beers they make. They're known for IPA, of course, which is their classic, amazing India Pale Ale offering. White Rascal, their wit beer, has gained a lot of notoriety recently. But they've also been making some of the most amazing small batch sour ales and really, really intense high octane ales for the past 20 plus years. And so they're known for these high octane beers. They have three of them: the Beast, Samael's ale, which we're having today, Samael's Oak Aged Ale, and Mephistopheles, their huge imperial stout. So today we're drinking Samael's. It just came out. This is this year's 14.2% alcohol version of a barley wine aged on oak chips, both heavy toast and medium roast oak chips. So it is pretty intense.
I love their Maharaja.
Oh, that's their
and
Imperial
of course,
IPA.
I tried them
classic.
for the first. It's appropriate I mentioned Rustico because that's the first time I think I ever had Avery. Ooh, isn't that enticing? Oh, that's good.
It's good. So Adam, is kind of known for the hoppy. Adam and Avery Brewing Company known for the hoppy beers, like you said, Maharaja, Avery IPA, Dugana more recently. The Hog Heaven barley wine that they have is incredible. But since 2004, they started brewing these really intense beers. So the first one was the Beast, which is their kind of Belgian strong dark ale in 2004. This was released for the first time in 2005, and then they finished the series with Mephistopheles, the Demon series, in 2006. So Adam loves wine, and so in the mid-2000s, he was like, let's brew some beers that are wine intensity and the complexity of wine as well. This one was kind of inspired by Madeira, like fortified wine, I think.
I had some Madeira this week, and
Did
that's
you?
exactly what
yeah,
it
it's very
reminds
similar.
me of.
Yeah, tawny port, Madeira, fortified wines for sure. And so for this is one of the bigger beers they make. Now, instead of doing a full batch of beer, they make a smaller batch of beer for this. And the reason for that is because the amount of grain and sugar that it takes to brew this beer, they pack their mash tun tight and can only yield a smaller amount. So this is 3,000 pounds of grain, about 110 pounds of turbinado raw cane sugar, and it only yields about 16 barrels. So this is how, because the more intense and rich and dexterous it is, the lower the yield's going to be. So this is an expensive beer to make, obviously, but well worth it. So they come in like that. A really great thing that they do with this beer is that they ferment it at lower temps, actually. They use a London ale yeast, so classic barley wine yeast, which gives off a little bit of fruit quality, maybe like a little bit of a like raisin-y note, but nothing overwhelming, not Belgian, obviously, like it is. They use a Belgian yeast for Mephistopheles and for the Beast. And then they ferment it out. One of the tricks here is that they add a naturally occurring enzyme that you find from yeast into the beer as it's fermenting. About 2/3 through the fermentation, they add this enzyme. And what the enzyme does is it breaks down the more complex sugars that haven't been fermented yet into simpler sugars so that yeast can keep going. And that's how they get it up to over 14%. Some years as high as 17% alcohol. They keep the fermentation temp relatively cool too, so that not too much alcohol is made too quickly, which will inhibit the yeast. So it's slow and low. It takes a long time to ferment. And then when it's done, the finishing touch is about 4 months with about 300 pounds of oak chips. I think 300 pounds per barrel I'm sorry, 3 pounds of oak chips per barrel. So you're looking at like 50 pounds of oak chips for about 4 months, and that gives it a little tannic quality, a little bit of oaky, vanilla, coconut notes as well.
Please let this be in my neighborhood store. Oh my goodness.
And you'll see it around a little bit. You see it on draft as well.
Is there a lot how much sugar is left in various types of beer after the fermentation process? There's a lot of attention in the nutrition world on sugar and how sugar is added to everything and its impact on our diet.
Right.
Yeast consumes sugar,
right,
but there's some left over.
There is, and also alcohol is a carbohydrate as well. So, if you're drinking, it's like, so a lot of people say, like, let's drink our vodka sodas because, that's better. It might have less carbs than beer, but it's still got carbs. The alcohol will give you carbs. Now, a great question, because in this case, all that turbinado sugar going in is not intended to make it sweet or be residual. Actually, that's feeding the yeast. That's simple sugar to get the alcohol up without leaving a lot of body. So this one, now this is going to have a lot of alcohol, so that's going to give you some carbs. There's going to be some residual sugar. That's the mouthfeel in the body, but it's not like, way more than you'd expect from a typical beer, because a lot of that sugar is actually, as you said, fermented out.
What would you pair this with?
So this is a obvious. The first thought you think is, end of the meal. You do it with like big, huge blue cheese, maybe some, sticky bread pudding or like creme brulee, any kind of cigar out there. But also the malt character in this, I think it makes me think of like soy a little bit. And so I was thinking earlier, you could do this with like really, great teriyaki would be awesome. And anything that's soy-based. So you think of like other classic Chinese dishes. Imagine you got a couple of these at home, you've been aging or something, pull them out with your takeout, Mongolian beef, Peking duck, things that are kind of either plum sauce, duck sauce, or soy-based, rich and sweet, could stand up nicely. And then also you could do, ramen. We've got a couple great ramen shops in DC now. What I find with ramen, and I've done it with two kinds, we have shoyu ramen, which is, the kind of soy-based ramen, or tonkatsu, which is the pork stock-based ramen. Both of them meld with the sweetness in the beer, but also kind of dig into the richness of the beer. So sometimes you'll use the beer to dig into the richness of the dish. I find that like a rich kind of soup like ramen tends to dig into the richness of the beer and lightens the beer up, as well as dovetailing with the flavors of the beer.
That's dynamite. Greg, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Everyone, please always do drink responsibly and be sure to bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.